Hey Channel Insiders, welcome back to Channel Insider Partner POV, your source for untapped opportunities and unfiltered opinions in the IT channel, all to help you make better business decisions. I'm your host, Katie Bavoso. If you haven't subscribed to Channel Insider on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform yet, go and do that right now so you never miss an episode. My guest today is Rich Falcone, president at AHEAD, a solution provider company specializing in building and managing digital platforms for enterprise customers. Rich spent 20 years, most recently as CEO and president at CDI, which was acquired by AHEAD in February 2024. Now, he looks to the future and explains why the consolidation of the two companies will benefit their customers and vendor partners. Rich, welcome.
Thank you very much, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. Are you still getting used to being called president of AHEAD at this point? It's only been a couple of months by this point.
When we started this process, we had talked to some companies that were international, and was talking to my wife about what my new title would be, and it might not be CEO, which is okay, and it might be president. At one point, she said to me, "So if it was an international company, would you be president of the United States of America?" And I said, I don't think I want that. But no, it's something to get used to. I was president of CDI for a little bit. I think titles are necessary, but I don't get out of bed in the morning worrying about what my title is. So nothing to get used to, but happy to take it on.
Let's continue to talk about AHEAD a little bit. So now that you've been there and you're officially integrated and part of the company, why don't you give me your explanation of what AHEAD is for the audience that maybe hasn't heard of AHEAD before?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I think it's no doubt that IT services, digital transformation, hybrid cloud, cybersecurity, all these things are invading our life and our world. I mean, whether you're a 7-year-old or a 70-year-old, things like cybersecurity, things like, the automation of the way you procure, anything from IT services, from your infrastructure community to buying things on Amazon and digitally transforming the way you interact with your colleagues, your friends, your enterprise. IT is just sort of in everyone's domain right now. And I think when you look at AHEAD, and I think if you ask any CIO in the last, year, 5 years, 10 years, has gotten a lot more complicated than it used to be. There's more opportunity than there used to be, meaning that they have a wider menu of choices, multiple clouds, SaaS providers. There's a lot on the menu, a lot they can do for the business, but it's a lot harder to manage it and to automate it and to digitally transform it and to secure it. And I think where AHEAD comes in is I think a lot of customers are very frustrated with sort of a vendor's inability to take the project and the program across the goal line. They can only do a piece of it. And I think AHEAD and CDI, with our combined service catalog, really create a very powerful experience for an end user to digitally transform, to really leverage multi-cloud, to really leverage automation, to really leverage digital transformation in marketplaces and things like that, without having to deal with a lot of pure play providers that may have good domain expertise, but really can't program manage a well thought out program over many, many years, along with, what we feel the greatest, engineers, greatest professional account management, back office support, culture, marketing. So I think, you glue that all together, and it's a very powerful story for customers who are trying to accomplish a lot of the things I just mentioned.
Absolutely. Who are those customers typically? What verticals are they in?
Yeah, no, great question. So both companies had tremendous success in very similar verticals. So finance, healthcare, legal, manufacturing, SLED, state, local government. Those are some of the larger ones. Media and entertainment. Those are some of the biggest ones. And they were almost like for like in terms of which ones were number one. Number two, obviously, finance and healthcare, very dominant in both. But again, those other verticals, SLED, media, legal, all successful verticals for both AHEAD and for CDI with numerous references.
How does AHEAD's acquisition of CDI ultimately benefit the customers that already existed between both companies? And what gaps does it fill for each of them?
I mean, very simply, the project gives the customers a wider service catalog of solutions to solve the problems we were just discussing. It gives them a wider bench of engineers who can service that service catalog and really just give them the ability to work with less companies to plug out a lot of these things. And to be specific, AHEAD had a digital solutions group which focused on application, cloud, data management, application transformation. We were dabbling there, but we weren't nearly as deep as the AHEAD team. They bring some services with, FinOps and really helping customers create the proper business cases and financial models to justify cloud versus on-prem versus off-prem. CDI didn't really have that FinOps sort of, capability and expertise. Now in reverse, CDI was very deep in what we called, let's say, our security red team. So ethical hacking, tabletop exercises, things like that. CDI has over 20 petabytes of data across 7 data centers in America where we're managing customers' infrastructure and monitoring, maintaining backup infrastructure, DR as a service. AHEAD was using a partner for that, where now that can be in-house. AHEAD had an in-house SOC. CDI worked with great SOC providers and will continue to do that. But having the in-house SOC option is also sort of, a nice advantage. So I could go on and on, but when you look at the two companies, there's just certain things that each one brought to the table that now that account manager has the ability to bring to the end user and again, get that consolidated multi-vendor, multi-discipline value.
Absolutely. Its own in-house SOC, too, I know adds the MSSP official title to what the two of you do now. So I'm sure that's very exciting to know that that's within the portfolio. And how does this acquisition make AHEAD a more valued partner to the IT technology vendors out there? I mean, the ones that you're partnered with, as well as the ones that maybe are on the fence or haven't approached you yet. How does this just generally make you a more valued partner?
Well, I think I'll answer that in a couple facets. I mean, scale matters in this business, right? So, if you're ServiceNow, working with a ServiceNow partner that maybe is, very regionalized or very niche-y in one or two modules, there's obviously a benefit to you and your sales force to work with a $100 million plus ServiceNow provider that's national, that can really span all the modules in your platform. If you're Dell, you got a very wide platform. You're a global business working with a business that can scale with you is very important. The other thing I'd say is sometimes these pure plays, yes, they can have technical expertise, but they really lack, account velocity or sales velocity, or sometimes even a sales force. So I think the vendors, sometimes they have to pick maybe between the velocity and scale of a large organization versus sort of the SME focus of the thing that they are focused on, security, transformation, all the things that the infrastructure providers provide. And AHEAD kind of gives them both. We have such a deep engineering bench to give you that focus of SME and technical experience, but obviously you get the benefit of the scale of the business and velocity of the sales force and the marketing engine, the account base, the summits, the healthcare summits. So I think for the vendors, whether they're large like Dell or ServiceNow, or even some of the newer, more up-and-coming vendors, especially in the security space, we give them the dedicated SME focus and the scale of a big business. And I think that's attractive to them, and probably more importantly, attractive to customers, again, who are trying to solve these multidiscipline problems across numerous data sets.
Knowing that vendors like consolidation, they like scale, do you think that we're going to see that sort of drive further M&A activity within the solution provider community this year?
100%, absolutely, yes. I don't want to call it this consolidation, but I mean, objectively, if you look around, there has been a lot of M&A in the last 5 years. I mean, that's just an objective fact. And, it's funny. I see some of our competitors try to use that as almost like a bad thing. Like, hey, look, we didn't do any M&A and, we don't have any, private equity partner. I find that kind of hilarious. I don't think somebody's financial structure should be discussed. To me, at the end of the day, like, it's a Darwinistic outcome. The customer needs to get to market to do things faster. You can build it or you can do strategic combination. There's no wrong answer, but sometimes the right answer is strategic combination. That's why M&A has been since the dawn of time and won't stop. And if you look at our space, I think there's some great companies out there who have great clients, great engineers, great sales forces. But maybe to build the gaps, the value gaps in their portfolio, it might take 5 years, 3 years. And by then, those gaps may need to be different. So yes, you will see more M&A. I think it's great for the clients. I think it's great for the partners. You got to do it right. It can be done wrong for sure, but it is not over. And I don't think objectively in technology, it'll ever be over because of how fast technology changes. I mean, look at VMware was acquired, Data Domain was acquired. I mean, look at all the security acquisitions at Cisco and Palo Alto. So I think M&A is here to stay for the dawn of time because of the rate of change of technology. You sort of have to be able to have successful strategic combination.
Really great insights there. Let's go back to talking about that IT complexity. Could you talk to me one more time about why it's more complex than it's ever been, the choices that we have now that we can almost have analysis paralysis, so to speak, and how is all of that impacting your clients' buying decisions and what they're asking for from you?
When I first met you, I said, when I go to watch a movie with my kids now, 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, you put in a DVD, you press play, there you go. Streaming came along, it was great. I could get more than just the DVDs in the house, press a button, and now there's 15 streaming services. And we go to watch a movie, it takes us a half hour to turn it on because we can't remember the password for this one, and got to update the credit card. But why is that? It's because the data is in more places. So I have more access to the data quicker, but it's in more places. So when you look at the end user, the data is in 2, 3, 4 hyperscalers. It's in SaaS providers. It's in their own on-prem data centers. It's in legacy applications and mainframes. It's in modern applications with automation. So the data has sprawled. And there were years when you had 1, 2, 3, 4 data centers. You did a few DR tests a year, and that was your IT operating model. And if you look at it now, I mean, you have multiple DR situations, multiple ransomware recovery situations, multiple ways to automate, multiple application sets and stacks based on where that application sits, where it used to sit, where it wants to sit. So again, going back to the video analogy, I have more movies, there's more data. That's the good news. You can bring more value to the business with more options that they can get to quicker. But then the management, the backing up, the securing of those options is just more complicated because of that data set sprawl. And for me personally, I think that's at the heart of the complexity. Throw in work from anywhere, throw in again, ransom. I mean, there's all these sort of modern day challenges that maybe weren't as severe, 10, 15 years ago. So, any IT, executive will tell you the opportunity is the best it's ever been to bring value to the enterprise, but it's more complicated to manage at the same time.
Absolutely. So when your clients are coming to you and expressing this sort of issue and challenge, how are you able to get them to understand about how you're able to help them? Do you use that analogy? Do you just tell them exactly what you told me?
Right or wrong, I speak in analogies here and there. So sometimes it'll come up, but eventually the rubber meets the road, right? And I think, AHEAD and CDI in the past, one thing we kept in forefront of the mind was, to invest in the customer. So we don't necessarily go in looking for like a quick project or a quick PO. We'll deploy a vast amount of resources, oftentimes, many times at no cost to the end user. They're not people that we're looking to bill. They're not people that we're looking to monetize within the first, month of the relationship. We want to understand the customer's program and what they're trying to roll out in the next X amount of years, what good looks like in the end. And then once we feel like we understand that, then yes, eventually the cavalry comes with, the deployment engineers and the project management and the execution. But I think back to your scale question, a smaller organization needs to be making money all of the time. And a larger organization has the ability to invest in a different way than, maybe someone who's a pure play who really needs sort of every minute to count from a monetary perspective. So I think that the breadth of the service catalog and the ability and willingness to invest is really where, the AHEAD team shines. And that's why we have, some of the largest enterprises in the world and some of the most complicated verticals in the world, spanning global solutions.
Can you give me an example of how you're innovating on top of some of those offerings and innovating for those verticals and customizing those solutions for them?
Yeah, I think taking multidiscipline projects, right? So taking something that instead of looking at it as, 6 to 10 vendors and 5 applications and stovepiping it and sort of unifying that. And sometimes, through our digital solutions group, through different aspects of our ServiceNow team, sometimes we can sort of create some custom IP to glue those stacks together. So maybe get software package A talking to software package B through some level of intelligent automation that, we may have scripted out or IP'd out or worked on the application development. So I think off the shelf is an aspect of our business, but I think AHEAD, can really stand out to customize those outcomes, those technologies across a multidiscipline stack, not maybe just siloed in the network or on the backup or in the ITSM or ITOM, or, I think really unifying that together and creating some custom solutions, as well as things like, mass global rollout, lifecycle management with our Hatch platform, the ability to provide sort of an Amazon-like experience when you're procuring and deploying things globally instead of, spreadsheets and things like that. Our integration center, in Chicago and Libertyville, that can ingest, global projects, ship them out, track them, stage them, some of that scale stuff that we spoke about before. You add that on top of, sort of the custom engineering I was defining, great account management, great culture. And I think, it's hard to match that, quite frankly.
Is there a customer success story that you may be able to share with me where we can talk about a specific instance in which you were able to help a customer? And I know at this point it might come from a CDI perspective, and that is totally fine. I know it represents AHEAD as a whole.
There's a clearinghouse, in the financial market that a lot of the world's trades have to clear through. And, you're talking about an older organization with a lot of technical debt. But now you throw in things like blockchain and you throw in things like all the financial sort of parameters that Bitcoin and all these things have brought, and the way they needed to service their customers, the banks of the world really changed. So that involved application transformation, that involved things like creating a marketplace, things like merging and meshing networks with the banks around the world and understanding how that impacts blockchain and things like that. So really what I'll say, modernizing one of the largest, financial workflows in America while maintaining, the legacy application, the mainframe process and things like that. You're talking about a 4 or 5 year initiative that's, been wildly successful, leveraging the new, maintaining the old, merging the two, leveraging automation, leveraging multiple clouds while also leveraging on-prem infrastructure modernization and automation. It's really been a phenomenal project. It's been going on for some time. It's had different names, run the bank, change the bank, on-prem cloud, that stuff comes and goes. But that's a good example, in our healthcare space, giving doctors, a faster, better way to analyze critical patient data, leveraging AI and infrastructure accordingly, which really creates, healthier people, right? So the ability to get the right information in the right doctor's hand, leveraging, super machine learning and all the things that AI and large language models bring to the table. That's something that's helping the world. And, we're proud of that. And then again, media customers working on their content delivery networks. The movies I was watching before, working on those networks to bring, the latest Disney movie to your house in not just a quick, but in a secure way. And I could go on in the different verticals, the way lawyers write papers, the way that they analyze past cases, how quickly they can do that from their house over a SASE network, things like that. I mean, there's all these cool use cases from legal, financial, healthcare, media, state, local government, the way children learn and the way they access data and where that data lives and keeping that data secure and keeping that data mobile, all those things too. So it's kind of fun when you think about it. When I try to explain what we do to my kids, I use true stories like that. Yeah, it's computers, but at the end of the day, it's pretty cool outcomes. So what are the best parts of the job?
And that's what you do during that half hour of trying to choose
movies. Sure.
You explain your job to them. Yeah.
I'm just happy they still want to watch a movie with me. They're 13 and 10, so...
Oh, those ages. Yeah, totally get that. What's next for AHEAD this year? I know that currently you're a $3.7 billion company, which is incredible. Sure. By the end of 2026, you're looking to be a $6 billion company. So what are you doing right now? How have you hit the ground running to be able to start getting to that point? And could we potentially see more acquisitions this year?
Sure. A couple things. So let me start with the acquisition question. So anyone can buy revenue, right? So I don't think buying revenue is a metric of success. I was CEO of CDI. I used to always say, if we're 2 and we buy 2 and it's 4, what do we really accomplish? Ultimately nothing. If 4 becomes 6, and the question is, well, because that combination brought additive value to our install base, and then they just saw more value in our services, and therefore they expanded their wallet share with us, well, then that acquisition made sense for everyone, for the employee, for the partner, for the customer. If you just do 2 + 2 is 4, again, I don't want to use a name, but there's been some headlines recently of a pretty large organization that did a tremendous amount of M&A, and it didn't go as planned. So I think that M&A done right, you'll continue to see at AHEAD. Again, it's got to be the right additive value to the end user, the client, and the vendors, and our employees, more importantly. I do think, continuing to build our solutions, whether it's our SOC, whether it's our digital solutions group and the things we're doing around data and security and AI and application management. And also don't forget about your bedrocks, right? I mean, look, keeping the lights on. I mean, you turn your lights on at night, even though you may automate your music and turn your TV on with your voice and you do all this stuff, you still got to keep the lights on. You can't see anything. So as we've been discussing, I think, like I said, you got to keep the lights on. And with that said, you gotta also modernize your home, modernize your data center, but keep that bedrock safe and sound. So I think AHEAD will continue to do both on the next generation solutions as well as, the foundational solutions.
My last question for you today is a personal one, Rich.
Yeah, sure. Those are my favorite.
I've been in this space for a bit, been working in the channel going on 6 years now. And for me, I've noticed a bit of a trend, especially in leadership positions. There are a lot of 2-year people. They come in, they spend 2 years, they go out. You spent more than 2 decades with CDI. That really struck me because it means that you were there for a reason. You were building something and they gave you a reason to stay. Why? Why is that something where you chose to stay with CDI as long as you did? And how are you going to try to continue that culture in AHEAD now?
Well, I mean, I think that culture already exists in AHEAD. I mean, if you look at Dan, the founder, you look at, Tim, the CRO, you look at Eric, the CTO. I think it's for the same reason, I stayed at CDI, quite frankly, more than half my life. If you got great friends and you're having a lot of fun and you're working on interesting stuff and you're willing to make mistakes and you're willing to learn and the people around you don't have an ego and are willing to be wrong and not pretend things are, always perfect. And in the end, you get to a good spot and you get challenged and then you get challenged again and again and again. I think if you're competitive and you like to bring great outcomes for your customers and you like to bring great outcomes for your employees and you just have a lot of energy. And I think if you have energy and competitiveness and transparency and great people and fun and friends and, tech's kind of cool to begin with, right? It's everywhere we go. I think you add all that up and it's like, why would I leave?
And Rich, if we want to get in touch with AHEAD, if we want to learn more, who can we contact? Where can we go? What should we do?
Well, you obviously go to our website. There's a form you can fill out. That's great. Feel free to fill it out. I'm joking because this was a thing at CDI that drove me crazy. Not everybody has time for forms. So you'll see an update on the website soon where it is just an alias email. But for now, obviously our website.
Thank you so much, Rich. It's been a pleasure and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time. You've been great. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks so much to Rich for joining me today, and thank you for watching or listening. Check out all episodes of Channel Insider Partner POV on channelinsider.com or watch us on YouTube at channelinsider_news and trends. You could also listen to the podcast version of every episode on your favorite podcast listening platform, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow wherever possible to never miss an episode. Once again, I'm Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.